When are you going to have a baby? Who do you think is paying for your treatment? You money-eating bitch.
My husband threw the divorce papers.
What's with that defiant look? I've been taking care of you until worthless piece of shit. Why don't you thank me and get thee off here? You don't work and you can't procreate. Who would want to be with someone like you? At best, you'll crawl miserably through life.
I had been a housewife for 10 years and was abandoned at the age of 40 due to infertility. How was I supposed to live without you? What saved me from losing the will was my beloved child who came into after the divorce. My son, who was like an angel, smiled at me and called me mom. He changed my life forever. I never imagined that this angel would be sent to hell by my ex-husband. My name is Kylie. My husband, Josh, and I have been married for several years, and I am a full-time homemaker. Both of us love children and look to having our own, but it was taking time. In the beginning, we were relaxed about saying, it's a blessing in disguise. When we were still childless, we decided to undergo fertility treatments. Josh believed that it was something undergo and that the inability to have children was a problem on the woman. He was definitely not cooperative. Furthermore, the treatment was effective when I saw him frequently falling out of bed due to the side effects, he would say.
Who do you think is paying for this? I'm not paying a lot of money so that I can fall sick in bed.
He always complained. After 5 years of treatment, he has have lost patience. Despite the best efforts of both my doctor, I was unable to conceive, and the cost of treatment just kept. Frustrated by the situation, he filed for a divorce. I tried to talk to him and asked him to reconsider several times. He had probably already given up on refused to have a talk. At the age of 40, I was going through a divorce and became single again. I felt as if there was a gaping hole in my chest, but I worked hard to survive. When I was going through treatment, I had a part-time job to help cover the medical bills. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue with the same job, but they did give me some hours after I explained my situation. In addition, my manager had been talking about promoting me to a full-time position for quite some time. So he submitted my application to the head office for me. My days passed quickly and frantic then on. About a month after I left Josh, my drastically changed again. My best friend from high school was in a fatal car accident with her husband. We used to share our joys and sorrows together. Throughout the time I was trying to conceive until the divorce was finalized, he was always by my side. At first, I could not believe that gone. It sounded surreal, but as soon as I faced the funeral, it felt like the world had vanished away. As I was leaving the funeral home, hazed, someone caught my eye. A small, curled-up figure on the side parking lot. I had met him several times. He must have just entered elementary school. I had no idea how big he had become. The small figure that was frozen in my best friend's son, Oliver. My chest tightened to see the way he there with his knees to his chin and blankly at the ground. I wondered what would happen to him having lost his parents and being so alone. Both of his late parents had no surviving family members, and they did not have any close relatives. I was afraid that he would be sent one foster family after another. I couldn't bear the thought and offered to take him in at that point. As an outsider, I thought I might have stirred up some controversy by saying such a thing. But it was granted relatively easily once I agreed to ask for any help in any way. Oliver also agreed to live with me without any hesitation. After that, things just fell into pie. I took in the huge responsibility to him alone. As expected, my life as I knew it was over. Every day was like a storm, and I realized how hard it was to care for a child. I grew a deep respect for all the world. My days were dizzyingly busy, but a joyful. Oliver and I fought from time to time, gave him the maximum amount of love. He grew up without any serious illness or injury. After nearly 10 years of living together, they had just started high school. We were shopping for dinner when we bumped into Josh. He looked surprised to see Oliver sewn next to me, but then he started speaking mockingly.
Why do you have such a big sore on your forehead? Were you cheating on me?
Hey, don't make such a vile accusation.
I knew it. He must be the child of a fair. Otherwise, you wouldn't have such a son.
Stop it! I never cheated on you, and I've only ever lived with you. Anyway, he is.
I tried to explain, but he interrupted every time. He never listened to others when he thought something was wrong, but now it seemed even worse than before. He gave me a creepy smirk while he...
Oh, my God. You were dumped by your partner, weren't you? Poor you. I bet you're having a tough time. You really made an ass of yourself.
You idiot. You are rude. 33.
Josh smiled, amused that I was still offended. Of continued to smirk at me. I was about to walk away from this insensitive guy when I noticed some... Why did he assume that I had a child with another man? He knew very well that I had been on antibiotics for 5 years, but never. I asked him exactly what was on my...
Why do you think he's my child? You know, I'm infertile, don't you? So why do you think I had a child? Another man? Even if I had cheated on you, you couldn't get pregnant. That's why we got divorced. Do you happen to forget such an important thing?
Yeah, that's right. How many years been since we divorced?
It was suspicious. He was staring at me condescendingly a moment ago, but his eyes started to. My suspicion grew by the sudden char attitude.
Is there something you're holding me?
I'm not hiding anything. 33.
Really?
I took a step towards him, and he too stepped back. When I stared at his face, when made expression, and started to explain. What he said was surprising. After we got divorced, one of his C told him about male infertility. He was curious, so he got tested and that he had abnormal sperm function. In other words, he was the cause of infertility. He had been reluctant to participate in treatment with me, so we were unable to have a child.
So, you mean I couldn't conceive because...
Yeah, it was my fault.
Oh my God!
You were mocking me for not give you a child, weren't you? That's why you cheated on me and left me, wasn't it?
Excuse me?
He was calm at first, but as he spoke, his voice grew louder and louder. His emotions seemed to be building up.
You knew I had a problem, weren't? That's why you found someone else.
Wait a minute. Oliver is my late befriend's son. She died in an accident, so I took her son to raise as my adopted son.
Shut up, shut up. That's a lie.
You've always been such a flirt.
You must have lured some guy. You heartless bitch.
No matter how much I tried to explain it to him, he wouldn't listen to me. I was at a loss as to what to do. He was shouting at me at that point. His words became more and more abusive. People were glancing at us. I felt very uncomfortable. When I was about to speak, Oliver, who had been quietly watching our exchange, spoke up.
Please, stop insulting my mother. What the hell? If you continue being rude to her, call the police.
Josh flinched as Oliver flashed his hymn. After glaring at him resentfully, Joe's just clicked his tongue and walked away.
Thank you, sweetheart. 33.
If you ever need help, just call me. He seemed illogical, so it's not safe to talk to him alone.
But I'm not sure if it's a good idea to use this method.
No, it's not dangerous. Yes, it is dangerous. It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Okay, 33.
I couldn't believe that my son had rescue. I thought he was still a child, but unexpectedly moved by how much Several more years passed. Oliver was about to graduate from college, and it was time for him to start looking for a job. We had planned to dine out together job interview. He was running late, so I was waiting at our meeting point when Josh appeared in front of me.
Yo, Grace.
Josh?
He still had the nasty smirk on his face despite his clothes being tattered and his shoes full of holes. The way he appeared was so disheveled, wouldn't have recognized him unless out to me. As I stood there, unable to say any of the shock, Josh staggered closer to.
Hey, honey, why don't we get married and live together again? Yes, let's do that. Let's live together in peace and harmony.
Unable to grasp his incoherent demands, he stood there like a statue. He was getting closer and closer when his hand touched my shoulder, back, and bumped into someone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm okay. Are you all right?
The older man looked at me with condescension, sensing something strange in the air.
Hey, you. Stay away from my mother.
Oliver, who had just arrived, stepped in between me and Josh.
Ugh, good timing. I'm going to be your father, so you have to support me. You understand that?
What are you talking about?
A child who was abandoned by his pa didn't grow up feeling their love, facing a hard life. Probably you can't even find a goodwill, live like a loser. If you can't be happy living in poverty, at least be a good son and make yourself useful to your father.
You're making no sense. If it was only about me, I could put up with it, but to make fun of him is an abomination.
My vision was distorted with rage. He knew nothing about us and had no speak about us. I clenched my fist in frustration. Oliver seemed to be indignant as we. Perhaps he was hurt to be told that during a sensitive time in his job, he bit his lips in frustration. I had to protect him. When I glared at Josh with all the hate in the world, the man who had been quietly watching us spoke calmly.
With all due respect, this young man has already been accepted by my company. You should have received a call today.
What are you talking about, old man? You have nothing to do with us, so involved.
I actually do. Assume I have more to do with him. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't introduced.
The man took out his business card. Josh was astounded when he read it at the man's face and the card over again. When I looked at the card, the title, Chief Executive Officer, was written on it. The company name was the same as Zero First Choice. Both he and I were too stunned to say anything. The man continued to speak similarly.
I was friends with Oliver S. Tate F. Before his death, we used to play five-a-side football together, and I used to visit his house. Oliver was very young. Soy Dom C remembers me. I played with you too, Oliver. After your parents passed away, a friend of your late mother took you in. You've been raised by a wonderful person who has taught you well. I can see the shadow of your late Fay only in your appearance, but in your heart. He had a strong sense of justice.
The three of us intently listened to. He looked at Oliver compassionate, moved his eyes upon Josh. His calm voice abruptly changed, and he started to speak sternly.
Oliver has grown up to be a very fine man raised by her and his late parents. On the contrary, how about you? You others in such a blunt manner in a place. Before you speak ill of him, you should reflect on yourself in the mirror.
Shut up, old man. Don't get too comfortable with me just because I listened to your story.
Turning red, Josh drew closer to the. When he was about to grab the man's, hands were stopped by other hands.
Hey, calm down. Come with us. Let's talk over there.
Surprised by the sudden appearance police, I glanced at Oliver, who was out his phone. I wondered when he had called them, was being protected while I was trying to protect him. It wasn't the right time to be emotional, but I was moved by Oliver's maturity. He was no longer a little child to be protected.
Mom, are you okay?
I looked at him with a strange feel, happiness and sadness. He stared back at me curiously.
I'm fine. Thank you.
His stiffened expression relaxed as relieved. After that, Josh was out of control a little while, but the police took H. He was taken away with his head hung if he had given up. I have not seen him since then. I heard through the grapevine that his much younger colleague had just gotten divorced, but they were unable to have children. His wife was very insistent, and he reluctantly told her about his infertility. She was so desperate to have a child that she was outraged when he didn't tell her, and they eventually divorced. In addition, all her colleagues started circulating rumors about her. And she was too ashamed to continue working there. He resigned from his job, but he was hard time finding new employment. He had to make do with a part-time job. It was during that time he happened into me again, and that was how the thing came to be. I don't know where he is or what he's doing, but I certainly hope he won't ever come face to face with Oliver and me again. I have consulted with the police and have taken countermeasures just in case. Oliver got his own place after he wanted the job. We're still close and talk every day. He's having a hard time adjusting to an unfamiliar life, but he's determined to make it on his own 2 feet. As for me, I fell in love at first the CEO, who helped me at that time. I invited him to dinner as a way of getting to know him better, and we had an unexpectedly good time. Since we're both single, we've been having beers for lunch or dinner since then. Oliver is amazed by my excitement about love for the first time in a long time. He listens to me and gives me advice. He's a perfect son. When Josh and I divorced, I had know a life was awaiting me. You never know what life has in store for you.